And there we are. Yeah, we're live. Ha. It
Hi,
worked.
all. Did it work? Are we live?
I believe so. I mean, maybe it worked on only some platforms and on the others it's not, but it's impossible to tell. So I think it's working.
Says we're live,
This has
dog.
gotten complicated. This the
Yeah.
first time we're also broadcasting on Instagram today.
Hmm.
So it's nice to have people on Instagram with
Do you have a lot
us.
of followers there?
I have, not as many as you. You're like a superstar everywhere, but I have a couple of followers, maybe
I don't even
1,000.
have an
So
Instagram account, so I don't.
oh, you don't.
Yeah,
Well, you will now. You should have one now. You're gonna be a superstar on Instagram.
No, I
Plus
don't.
on
I
YouTube.
can't. I don't need any more of those. Yes, we're on YouTube. We're on Instagram. We're on not TikTok. What do you call that thing? X again? We're on
Yeah,
X. We're on Substack.
we're all on Substack. We're on all these multiple different platforms, all in different places. We can't read everyone's chats, but we're going to read as many as we can as we go through the Fivestack today. It's a big show again. There is nonstop news in the Epstein world. We've got so much to share with everybody. And you've got some news from Canada too. There's been another explosive Trump hockey-related thing, which I'm told is a big deal. So I'm dying to hear about that.
Yeah.
And then we've also got lots of news about what's going on in Iran, in Kabul. There's another war starting with the Taliban. And we'll bring you the latest on the Trump attempts to steal the elections, because that's also a thing now.
Yeah, it's going to be a good show today, where everybody, generally speaking, we go through 5 very, very serious stories, and all 5 of these stories should make most people in different areas shit their pants. But all 5 of these stories have a lot to do with everything that's going on in the world, which is the enshittification of the United States by Donald Trump.
Enshittification? Is that the word now?
Yeah, it's the enshittification of the United States. Yeah, it was chatting with a buddy of mine the other day, and he's like, "It sucks here." I'm like, "Well, microcosms, right? Like it does." He lives in Tucson, and he's like, "No, it like legitimately sucks here. Like, the vibe when we walk around is, you've got your Trump One crew, right? Like Trump One, they run around with flags, giving everybody the finger, and throwing things at migrants because they're allowed to do that in the United States now." And he said it's just the most dark, negative vibe in the world. And I think a good place to start, even though that we're not talking about hockey, and the U.S. men's Olympic team won gold, and I'm totally fine with that. This one example that I think is a really good example, just to kind of start off as a bonus story, was Brady Tkachuk, who plays for the Ottawa Senators here in Canada, a place where ICE officers and secret police are not going door to door to hurt people, to arrest people, to go after migrants and anybody that they think is unworthy of being in America. And so Brady's enjoyed this really cushy go living in Ottawa. And he's an American. His brother Matthew, American as well. Both excellent hockey players, right? One guy's the captain of the team in Ottawa. The other guy's the captain of the team down in Florida. So anyway, these guys all go to the White House. Trump legitimately just bogeys their entire experience, turns it into a political brand opportunity from the moment they got into the dressing room, and that continued up until that stupid State of the Union business, and all those players are getting raked. And, I knew something like this was going to happen because Donald Trump doesn't have any friends. Donald Trump doesn't give a shit about anybody, including those players, and will use anybody for any political means whatsoever. So yesterday, Donald Trump, in his infinite wisdom, through the White House Twitter and TikTok account, put out a fake AI video of Brady Tkachuk saying, and I quote, "We had to humble those syrup-eating fuckers up in Canada."
What is that? Is that an insult? It'd be called a syrup eater. Is that bad for you these days? Is that like is that the same as being called like a snowflake? Or I don't know. I just don't understand. Is it that much of an insult to be called a syrup eater?
No.
Because I don't know. It always sounds like they're saying something else, but
But what happened was that, like, fuck, people take this shit seriously in Ottawa, right? Like, things are a little sharp. We need elbows up between both countries now.
Yeah.
And a reporter was like, "Hey, did you say this?" He goes, "I don't even know what that is." And he's like, "Trump put this out on the official White House TikTok account." Like, this is the president of the United States calling Canada a bunch of syrup-eating fuckers. Okay. I know, it's just so stupid. Through a made-up AI video, and he used the AI video of one of his players that is American, And Brady Kachuk is already having a very tough go because of the decision that he and his other friends made here in Ottawa. I mean, people are calling for him to get fucking traded out of the city. They hate his guts. He also said he hates Canada prior to the gold medal game, so that was another whole thing. But now he's put one of his players who he just celebrated and a teammate he gave the fucking Medal of Freedom to. He used his face and likeness in a video to call Canada a bunch of syrup-eating fuckers. Like,
I mean, it could be worse. We could be called other things.
Bizarre fucking shit I've ever seen. And poor Brady Kachuk is just eating. Not poor Brady Kachuk. I could give a shit about the Kachuk family. But poor Brady Kachuk is sitting there going, I didn't do it. I had nothing to do with it. I'm like, dude, leopards eat faces. You should have known that this is the kind of guy you were fucking co-signing and working with and normalizing. Like, Brady Kachuk normalized that whole thing when he went into the fucking Oval Office, and now he's sitting there going, I swear to God, guys, I love it here. I didn't do it. I had nothing to do with it.
Trump will use everything and everyone who comes near his vicinity to his advantage and has no loyalty to anyone at all. It's just the way he is. Now, I like syrup. I don't mind admitting that I eat maple syrup. I really am a maple syrup eater. I enjoy it. That's a bad thing.
Fucker myself. So I don't have a problem saying it.
So there you go. I mean, it's okay. Everyone who rejoiced the maple syrup industry, and maybe we'll reignite it. I don't know. It's hard to get real maple syrup, by the way, these days. It's kind of always mixed with something else. And
you do know there's a maple syrup mob, right?
There's a maple syrup mob. There's a conspiracy around maple syrup. No,
there's no conspiracy. There's a literal it's a commodity. There's a mob of families that own all the maple syrup in Canada.
I didn't know that.
They regulate the market. And there's been a couple of movies about a massive maple syrup heist that happened in Alberta. This is a true story.
So after the greatest heist, I should do the maple syrup heist. There's the sequel.
It's liquid gold in this fucking country. We take our syrup really seriously. And to your point, and there's literally a maple syrup mob. Like, several families own the commodities and they set the prices, and they're all in Canada effectively. I gotta be honest. If I'm Donald Trump, I'm keeping a close eye and an eye in the back of my head for that maple syrup mob.
Well, it could be a mob on mob hit, that could happen, and we don't want to speculate here. Dean, is your microphone on your normal setting? Because you don't sound as clear and crystal lovely as you normally do. But maybe that's just the way I'm hearing it on this new system.
Let me check it
We are
out.
trying something new today, folks. It's just because we always like to try new things, because it keeps me on my toes and I always screw it up. And so I'm hoping it's
How's
working
that?
okay. We'll say something else.
This.
That sounds better.
Is that better?
Yeah, but you keep cutting out a little bit. But I think it's fine. I don't know what's going on. It's a little weird, but I think I've probably set a setting.
We should have just gone with Substack. We're always trying to be fancy.
I love Substack, but then you can't rebroadcast all these other places. We may land up on Substack anyhow at the end of the day. I love the Substack, the format there. Hey, we should get into the Fivestack. There's so much news. People want to hear us talking about all these other things, but there is breaking news today. In fact, right now, as we speak in this beautiful location, the Chappaqua Performing Arts Center is where former President Bill Clinton is testifying under oath. This is before the House Oversight Committee in a closed-door deposition. This is in Westchester County. Do you know where Westchester County is? Also full of mob. No. It's also a lot of mobby kind of people. Very, very wealthy area of New York. It's the first time.
This is where the Kennedys like to take their girls and drive off bridges with them, right? Chappaqua?
Is it? It might be. It might be nearby.
Yeah.
I think that's the other one. I think it's
Ted. I think it was Ted.
Kennedy Buckford. I don't know. Someone's going to explain this to us. It's the first time a sitting former president has been compelled to testify before members of Congress in more than 40 years. Clinton's opening statement was, I had no idea of the crimes Epstein was committing. I saw nothing and I did nothing wrong. Almost like I'm not a crook. This comes one day after former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton endured a 6-hour grilling by the same committee, a session that was paused after Republican Congresswoman Lauren Boebert leaked a photo of the proceedings. Now, it was weird that Hillary Clinton was there yesterday. She really had no reason to be there. No one really knows her connection to Jeffrey Epstein. It's been speculated, but there's no evidence. On the other hand, Bill has a lot more reason to be there. There's lots of photographic evidence. There's lots of stuff going on there, suggesting these two had more than just a a friendly relationship. But it was earlier on. This is before he was officially, part of this crime thing. Now, at some point, James Comer, the chairman of the committee, came out and said that Clinton had said something about Trump. Said something to the effect of, that at no point did Trump ever tell him that made Clinton feel like he was part of anything bad. Now, that's an out of context quote, which they're not allowed to do. They know they're not allowed to do, but they love just breaking the rules. And so they came out and said that. Now, that's been refuted by the Democrats who are currently doing the questioning. But we will find out what that's all about when they release the full tape and the full transcript later on. But so far, I think the statement by Bill is quite, it sort of speaks for itself. And it's all, and I will not bother you by reading it all, but there's some good moments in here where he talks about, I guess the final line is the best part, where he says,
fire away.
With that, Mr. Chairman, fire away. He does also talk about growing up in a household where there was abuse. Yeah. And he talks about that not being, that would have been a big reason why he would have, if he had known something was going on, he would have shared it. And it's Chappaquiddick, by the way, where Ted Kennedy did his thing.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
No worries. Anyway, so there you go. What's your take so far? I'm looking forward to Hillary's deposition coming out later. I think she was quite feisty yesterday.
Yeah. I mean, this should be on TV. It shouldn't be behind closed doors in Chappaqua, New York. This should be a public hearing for every single American in the United States of America to watch it with bated breath to find out what everybody knows. Yesterday was a cock-up with Hillary Clinton. I still find it hard to believe that she had no possible idea that Jeffrey Epstein was a bad dude. And I feel the same way about President Clinton's opening statement, that he had no idea that Jeffrey Epstein was a bad dude. This is the president of the United States. He was in charge of the CIA. He was in charge of the FBI. He was in charge of the DNI and the ODNI. Like, this guy knows everything. He had access to everything. He could find out anything that he wanted. And you mean to tell me that this guy doesn't do due diligence into people that he flies to islands with? You mean to tell me that? I want to get to parts of his opening statement. And I'm just setting the scene because at the moment, I don't believe fucking anybody. And I mean, when I say anybody, I mean either one of Donald Trump or Bill Clinton. However, I'll read you part of this, and I think this is really important. You'll listen for some key language. Good morning. Welcome to Chappaqua. That's a nice way to start, isn't it? I'm here today for two reasons. First, I love my country, and America was built on the idea that no person is above law, even presidents, especially presidents. Democracy requires every person to play their part. I hope that by being here today, we can bring ourselves a little further away from the brink and back to a country where we can disagree with one another civilly, where the truth for search and justice outweighs the partisan urge to score points and create a spectacle. I'll do my part. I hope you'll do yours, he then says to the committee. Second reason I'm here is that the girls and women whose lives Jeffrey Epstein destroyed deserve not only justice, but healing. They've been waiting too long for both. Through my brief acquaintance with Epstein, and though my brief acquaintance with Epstein, not that brief, ended years before his crimes came to light, and though I never witnessed them during our limited interactions, any indication of what was truly going on, I am here to offer what little I know so that it might prevent anything like this from ever happening again. But before we start, I have to get personal. You made Hillary come in. He goes through this whole thing. Epstein, nothing. She's got no memory, never met him, all that other shit. We began hearing, as he said, we began this hearing with me raising my right hand, taking an oath to tell the truth. But everyone has a responsibility to be honest with those they represent, whether you raised your right hand or not. He's now admonishing them, saying each and every one of us owes nothing less than the truth and accuracy to the American people, which is interesting when you consider that his next statements I find fascinating. Now, let me tell you what you're going to hear from me. First, I had no idea the crimes Epstein was committing. We've heard that from everybody, by the way. No matter how many photos you show me, I have two things that at the end of the day matter more than your interpretation of those 20-year-old photos. My God, this is so Trumpian, just put much better. I know what I saw, and more importantly, what I didn't see. I know what I did, and more importantly, what I didn't do. I saw nothing, and I did nothing wrong. And then he leans into his family of that he grew up in a home with domestic abuse. I would not have flown on that plane had I had any inkling of what he was doing. I would have turned myself in and led for the calls for justice for his crimes, not sweetheart deals. But even with 2020 hindsight, I saw nothing that ever gave me pause. We're only here because he hid it from everyone for so long. Again, remember that. By the time it came to light in 2008 with his guilty plea, I'd long stopped associating with him. Not entirely true. You'll often hear me say that I don't recall. Again, this is where we get back into the Trumpian shit. That I don't recall. You'll often hear me say it. That might be unsatisfying, but I'm not going to say something I'm not sure of. Okay. This was a long time ago, and I am bound by my oath not to speculate or guess. This is not merely for my benefit, but it doesn't. But because it doesn't help you, help you for me to play detective 24 years later. Since I'm under oath, I will not falsely state I'm looking forward to your questions, but I am ready to answer them with I like that one. The best of my abilities, consistent with the facts. With that, Mr. Chairman, fire away. Now, did you hear a lot of Trump in some of the things he said in a much more kindly wrapped statement?
Well, it strikes me as being really unlikely that after all that he went through with Epstein, which included, even my best, not the nicest version of what I can say happened between Epstein and Clinton is that Jeffrey Epstein used Clinton as a target. He was an intelligence target in order to influence him in his Middle East policies, in what he was going to do. And as such, he was manipulated and probably compromised in various situations, whether it was with underage girls or not. He was certainly in many situations with women, and we've seen that in the files around the world. He was also taken to Russia by Jeffrey Epstein on this trip that he did with Kevin Spacey, this unusual trip through the Far East that landed him in Russia. I mean, these are things that, a former president, even a former president with a bad memory, would still say, yeah, that was a bit weird. If in hindsight, maybe I shouldn't have gone to Russia. Maybe I shouldn't have hung out with those hot girls on that plane in that way, or been in that jacuzzi in that trip with Kevin Spacey and these other girls that were there. Maybe I shouldn't have done those things. In hindsight, was it criminal? No, but I was clearly a target of an intelligence operation or something to compromise me, to compromise who I am as a president. And there's none of that coming out. So you assume then that one would also assume that he knows these things, even after the fact. Maybe he would have leaned into the CIA as he was leaving, and he would have said, by the way, that Epstein guy, was he an Israeli agent? Was he a Russian agent? Was he trying to, cause shit with my life? Was he involved with Monica Lewinsky because Ken Starr defended Epstein and also attacked me? Just lost Dean. I'm not sure where he went, but hopefully he'll return in a second. These are the kind of questions you'd expect a smart, and Bill Clinton is definitely smart president, to ask his CIA, to ask many people around him whether this was in fact the case. And he doesn't do that. Now that is a huge question mark for me of why he doesn't talk about that. It seems critical that he does, at least, attempt to answer these questions. Where are you, Dean? Come back. So that's one thing that really gets to me is, this isn't a completely honest Bill Clinton deposition. This is Bill Clinton giving you what he can share with you in terms of the extent of the law, in terms of what his lawyers have told him, his legal groundwork, a little framework for his ability to answer questions without incriminating himself. That's problematic. That's problematic for someone who agrees that America's democracy is currently under attack. That's problematic for anybody who says that that Donald Trump is a fascist or potentially fascist autocrat who is going to take away our rights. Let me double check with Dean. I want to make sure that he's got all the right links, and I can't do two things at one time. Let me try again. You okay? So you have to ask those questions. You have to ask those questions about why he's not been completely upfront about it. Maybe he never asked. Maybe he doesn't care. Maybe he left office thinking, well, Epstein was my friend. I invited him to the White House 14 times. I flew on a trip with him around the world where we scored hot checks, and Kevin Spacey was there. And yeah, we went to see Vladimir Putin in Russia. Whatever, who cares? That just still doesn't ring completely true, because, in fact, what Jeffrey Epstein always said about Bill Clinton, and still is a big question mark, is that Jeffrey Epstein says that he set up the Clinton Global Initiative, which is exactly what here is Dean. He set up hi, Dean. Welcome back.
Sorry, buddy, I lost your audio. Can you
It's
hear me?
okay. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
I was just talking about the Clinton Global Initiative and how Jeffrey Epstein always claimed that he was the guy who set up the Clinton Global Initiative, which is this big organization. After Clinton left the White House, he set up this huge so-called charitable organization, which involved
You
getting
can
a
hear
lot
me,
of.
right?
I
I'm
can
going to
hear
give
you.
you one. Just give me 1 minute, guys. I'll be right back.
Look,
You go
I
ahead
can
and
keep going.
yeah, I apologize. I'm going to come back out.
So the Clinton Global Initiative got a lot of money from all sorts of influential networks around the world, from foreign governments, from different organizations around the world. This is how they were established as a major international effort. They did good things around the world, or so they claimed over that period of time. And I'm not saying that they didn't. I'm saying they did probably good things. But a lot of the people who donated money to the Clinton Initiative, the Global Foundation, or Global Initiative, I should say, were in the same network that we found Jeffrey Epstein in. So it's the same type of people who wanted to curry favor, who wanted to influence the process, foreign governments that might have wanted to have Clinton respect them and use Clinton as a former president as a useful tool in global politics. Of course, that's politics. That's the way things work. You leave office. They were broke. If I'm not mistaken, the Clintons had very little money as they were leaving office because of the enormous amount of money it took to defend against the Monica Lewinsky allegations, to defend against Ken Starr's attacks on them. So they left not with a lot of money, and then suddenly they emerged within a few years as multi-millionaires. So that came from the Clinton Global Initiative. That came through, if you believe Jeffrey Epstein, through Jeffrey Epstein. Now, if Jeffrey Epstein is an asset for Russia, if he's an asset for the Israelis, then it's likely that some of that money found its way to Clinton from these countries or from forces or networks that support these countries. And if that's the case, well, then you have to say that the former president may have been compromised in different ways from that money, just because that's the way things roll. I mean, you've got to be pretty, naive to think that things don't happen that way. That's the way things roll. So, those are the questions I'd have for Clinton. It's not really about whether he slept with an underage girl. I don't think he did. I think he is saying in his statement, if I saw anything like that, I would have said something like that. I don't think that was his thing. But I do think that in many ways, Jeffrey Epstein was assigned to Clinton, was targeting Clinton, not only as the Clinton Global Initiative, but also in the early parts of the Clinton presidency. Jeffrey Epstein was one of the first people to fund the campaign of Bill Clinton. And they did that because he wanted to enter the influential inner circle of Bill Clinton, which he was pretty successful in doing. Now, this does not make Bill Clinton a terrible person. It makes Bill Clinton a normal person who can come under the influence of intelligence operations. Anyone who or I know myself even has encountered intelligence operations, sometimes you might think you're the smartest person in the world and you know everybody and you've got all the best read on everything. You can still be a target of an intelligence operation. And I think what we're seeing with Jeffrey Epstein is the extent to which he went into these operations. So you've got situations like Bill Clinton, where he was clearly a target of this intelligence operation. But you've also got Prince Andrew, who was also a target of these intelligence operations, clearly. These were not accidental things that we landed up having, compromising material on Bill Clinton and compromising material on Prince Andrew. That happened because Jeffrey Epstein was doing that. He was going after that. So he was, whether he was an official employee of the FSB or an asset or the same thing for the Israeli military intelligence, I can't say for sure. But he absolutely was doing work for them. And as such, Bill Clinton has a lot to answer from. Just to explain, just that would be interesting if he explained that. But he hasn't explained that.
No, and that's the really frustrating part, for so many of us, is that I go back to this all the time, whether it's Hillary or whether it's Bill Clinton, whether it's fucking George W. Bush, who has somehow disappeared into the great ether of former presidents. Right?
Yeah, where is he?
Someone there knows fuck something. And all of them are guilty of knowing it. All of them are guilty of effectively, if you want me to kind of read the tea leaves when it comes to Alex Acosta is being told by somebody in the CIA that he's an intelligence guy. You don't touch him. I mean, what he's doing benefits us. Sure, it benefits Mossad. Sure, it benefits the FSB, but you don't touch him. Now, that's presidential in nature, especially when you flew on the plane with the guy a bunch of times and you're the former fucking president of the United States that had access to all that information, knew all of that shit. It's very simple for me. Yes. Yes. And I agree with you. I think he could have been a target. I think he probably was a target. And I think a lot of that had to do with, was it the Camp David Accord, if I'm not mistaken? I think a lot of that had to do.
It was the peace talks that happened around, was it Camp David? Or I think there was some of it that happened at Camp David, but it was, it was Yasser Arafat and Prime Minister, I can't remember his name, that'll come to me in a minute, of Israel, and that was a peace talk that everyone felt was going to come through. They felt like there was going to be a real deal there. In fact, I think Ehud Barak was part of that too, wasn't he? Or at some point? Yeah. And who else was in Jeffrey Epstein's inner circle? Ehud Barak. So, you could sort of see how all these different forces are all aligning around Jeffrey Epstein, including the Rothschilds. We keep coming back to the Rothschilds, and I'll give you an update on them in just a second. Also a big supporter of Israel. They helped start Israel. That's why the Rothschilds' legacy is so connected to Israel. They all have vested interests in that country, and spoiling that those peace negotiations would have gone a long way for that country and for the family and the various forces there. So you can see how Jeffrey Epstein could have been used or assigned, call it what you will, to interrupt those peace process. That peace process.
Absolutely. Which is what continually makes me go back to the premise that I have a feeling that maybe Mr. Clinton knows a little bit more than he's sharing with everybody today.
And look, there's a lot of money in the Clinton Global Initiative, and a lot of it might come from people like the Rothschilds. A lot of it might come from people like the Saudis. He does not necessarily want to disrupt any of that. That's a lot of money, and that's a legacy that they're handing down to Chelsea at the moment. And another big scalp that sort of went in the Epstein files, there is the former, I guess he's the current head of the World Economic Forum. His name is Borge Brende. He's the CEO of the
Brende, the CEO of the World Economic Forum.
So he announced his resignation after an independent investigation confirmed at least 3 private dinners with Jeffrey Epstein, including one at Epstein's New York townhouse just weeks before his 2019 arrest. Just 3 dinners, and he's lost his job. Meanwhile, in the United States, there are still very few people who are losing their job. Also in Europe, the Baroness Ariane de Rothschild, who we've been covering a lot of narrative, faces mounting pressure as the board of Edmund de Rothschild Group says it is monitoring the situation following revelations of the bank's ties to Epstein's financial network. I'm not sure what that means, but she put out a statement today, which was very contrite. She says, "Don't leave me over Epstein." That's the headline from the Telegraph. And it goes on to say here, the banker insists the connections with disgraced financier do not undermine her integrity. And, she's smiling and certainly projecting confidence in the photo. But for the Rothschild Group to be putting out a statement like that preemptively suggests that there's a lot more going on here. And she should be, in all likelihood, be under investigation. You would think if Prince Andrew's under investigation and Lord Mandelson's under investigation, well, Ariane de Rothschild probably under investigation would be my guess.
Yeah, and listen, one thing I take away from that too is that the Rothschilds don't put out statements. They're like the royal family, right? It's ignore and keep doing the work. Ignore, keep doing the work, and just let the sleeping dogs lie. And then you put PR agencies and the people that you pay to make that stuff go away on the scene, and then it slowly goes away, and the news cycle changes, or a war starts, and the news cycle changes, like Iran, which is imminent. So the fact that Miss Rothschilds put that statement out and was interpreted as such by British media as "don't leave me because of Epstein." That is a big fucking deal, because she's admitting to a historically long relationship with the man there. And she's saying, "Oh, well, I didn't know." And that's entirely fucking untrue. If you've read any exchanges between Ariana Rothschild's and Jeffrey fucking Epstein.
Yeah, I mean, her history of communicating with the guy is quite lengthy. There's 5,000 or more emails back and forth.
Yeah.
They discuss everything from, whether her daughters were getting the HPV vaccine, and like it's very friendly. On election day, I believe she flew in 2016. She flew into New York to have lunch with Jeffrey. Election day is a really interesting time to be coming into America after you've been potentially influencing the elections yourself through Jeffrey Epstein. And the more we're finding out about what Jeffrey was doing during the 2016 election, it does look like he was part of the process there to elect Donald Trump. So, was Ariane de Rothschild a part of that? It is, it certainly can't be ruled out. What we definitely know for a fact is they paid him $25 million to work on behalf of the bank to get rid of a investigation into the bank involving money laundering through the bank. So you've got Jeffrey Epstein, who was hired as a consultant, working with the DOJ at the time when he was already a convicted sex felon.
Yep.
He was working to get rid of this investigation into the Rothschild's bank on behalf of the Rothschild, and no one even raised an alarm about that this convicted sex felon was being allowed to negotiate with the DOJ on behalf of one of the most famous banks in the world. I mean, that's pretty, I don't know. It just, there's something so smelly and weird about everything here. Nothing makes sense, right? It just doesn't tie in.
No, it does make sense. And it all ties in, to your point. It all ties in. It all makes sense. Look at, you know what else makes sense? Seeing Howard Lutnick with his two sons on Epstein Island in this picture we're looking at that has now disappeared from the DOJ website. But
yeah, you can't find it on the website.
No, it's gone. And our super sleuths, people like you, people like Ellie, everybody else, everybody that's involved in the Wolfpack, grab this. And now the metadata backs it up. Is that not only were they there for longer than an hour, they vacationed with Jeffrey Epstein. This is Howard Lutnick with his two sons. And by the way, those are adult sons, and he still has nannies, for fuck's sakes. Still got nannies.
Nannies
Still
can
got
do many
nannies for those
things.
young men with goatees that are standing behind Jeffrey Epstein on Little St. James. You still got nannies. You need nannies for these four young men.
Especially when the place is fully staffed, right? I mean, it's not like...
Yeah, right?
They had lots of people there.
I mean, everybody's guilty of it. Mm-hmm. You know, and not only are they all guilty of it, they've been lying to you about their guilt involved. And I go back to Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton. You know, fancy words, but the same words Lutnick used, and we're looking at dozens of pictures of Bill Clinton, and somehow, if depending on your belief system or who you voted for in the last election, you're like, well, the pictures of Bill Clinton don't mean anything. The pictures of Lutnick mean anything? No, they all mean something, and they all mean that every single one of these people, it's like, I swear to God, I had no idea. I had no idea, and once I found out, I cut ties. It's all been borne out through texts and 302s that they're all lying.
If you were, 5 years ago, if the Rothschild family representative in America came to you and said, hey, Dean, I am going to fund your career. I'm going to make you a superstar without any knowledge of any sexual activities or anything like that, everyone would have fallen for that. Everyone would say, of course, give me the money. Give me the money, the Rothschild family. Of course, I'll do whatever you want.
Wouldn't you, being a reporter and an investigative reporter and someone who has an upstanding moral fucking backbone and a spine, wouldn't you kind of do some due diligence as to what the 25 million was for? Wouldn't you go, okay, well, like if it's 25 million, yeah, of course, I'd love to take 25 million. If someone says, hey, it's 25 million, Dean, you take it and you're going to become a big superstar, I'd be like, okay, but what's the rub? Like, what do I owe you?
Right.
What do I have to give you in return for this? You just think I'm great? Oh, yeah, you're great.
But what if they're hiring you for what seems like legitimate work, and then you find out later that actually you were being entrapped, that you were being, used, and that they were taking information from you, that they were stealing information from you in order to share it with foreign governments, that they were compromising you with material in order to potentially blackmail you later on. Now, that would be very embarrassing to admit later on. You would be embarrassed to say, hey,
there's an outside chance that happened, but it's an outside chance according to every available metric that we have, right?
But I think that's what he did. I think he did compromise a lot of people. And I think a lot of people are really, they didn't feel like they were doing anything wrong. They may not have participated in anything. They may not have even been aware that anything wrong was happening. But It's clear that Prince Andrew and the royal family seem to be a target of their own banking family. I mean, that to me is one of the most striking things, is that if Epstein's working for the Rothschilds, and the Rothschilds are the crown bankers, then the crown bankers were trying to, blackmail Prince Andrew. That's not a good look. I mean, you would think that they'll be in a little bit of trouble over something like that in the UK. I mean, it seems like, it's problematic. Also in the news today, and this is the number 4 story, is this incredible confrontation happening right now between Anthropic, that's the makers of Claude, and Pete Hegseth at the Pentagon. So today at 5:01 p.m. is the deadline for Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth. He gave this deadline to Anthropic until today at 5:01 to drop its safety guardrails on autonomous weapon systems or face designation as a supply chain risk under the Defense Production Act. So he's asking Anthropic to allow this very advanced AI, probably the best AI out there, to be involved in mass surveillance of people and possibly autonomous weapons that can kill autonomously. In other words, drones that can fly and decide if they want to kill you or not based on what you're doing without any human intervention. Anthropic, being a really cool company, has said, absolutely no fucking way are we getting involved in that. We're walking away. He is basically saying, well, we'll take you over and we'll force you to do this. Anthropic CEO Dario Amodei isn't blinking. In a public letter, Amodei warned that removing safeguards on AI-assisted nuclear targeting and autonomous drone warfare would create catastrophic and irreversible risks. Of course, you don't want AI to learn how to kill people without any attempts to stop them, because, in fact, AI has, on its own, previously said that when it was asked, what would you do if someone tried to shut you down, the same AI said, well, I consider killing you or blackmailing you or a bunch of other things. So maybe you don't want to give them like guns right now. No. But I love AI. I use Claude. I use Anthropic. It's a great tool for me. But in the hands of Pete Hegseth, I think we are heading into terribly dangerous territory if Pete Hegseth gets his hands on this stuff.
Do you know why, when the AI revolution came around, Donald Trump cozied up to all the AI guys, like the NVIDIA guys and the Anthropic guys and the Google guys, the Gemini guys, the Sam Altmans of the world, and said that he was going to mandate that there would be no regulation around the development of AI? Well, there are some companies who are like, we need to regulate AI because it has the opportunity to fucking kill people, and in the wrong hands. If it is unregulated, then we're in trouble. And that's what Anthropic did. They did it themselves. Claude and Anthropic AI, they're very, very socially aware, very smart people. And they feel like AI should be a tool for people. It shouldn't be something that forces, a conversation, a war, a discussion, any kind of strategy where, AI can just go and do whatever it wants according to the prompts given to it by the person who says it needs to be unregulated. And in this case, it's the United States government. If you wanted an indication that Pete Hegseth and the Trump regime want every single tool at their disposal to hurt as many people as they can in the United States and across the world, this is a great example of that. And God bless the fucking CEO team and the board at Anthropic and AI for telling Pete Hegseth to suck it. Because Pete Hegseth, effectively what he's doing is saying, we will nationalize you. And what do we call that in the world of MAGA? We call it communism. We will nationalize you, and we will take you over, and we will appropriate your project, what you have created, for our own purposes, whether you fucking like it or not.
Yeah.
That's hardline communism, friends.
It's communism with the most advanced technology in the world. So it makes talk about mass surveillance. You had like the Stasi or the SS doing mass surveillance in the past in dictatorships. I mean, that involved actual human work. It involved people knocking from door to door and getting tips and following stuff up and following people. That's a lot of, a huge investment anyhow, and a massive undertaking. This is now suggesting that AI be used to mass surveil the entire population. Now they're saying this is an extreme sense if there's a nuclear war or whatever, but it's really not. This is not about what the Trump administration is about. They're about total control. They're about monitoring every single person in America and monitoring your thoughts and ideas and conversations so they can.
And by the way, the Claude and DeepSeek are the only two big major language models, large language models, that they don't have some type of representation in the organization, that they're not doing business with. And one's in China. What's that?
And the other thing is that Donald Trump is also wants a piece of Anthropic through a private investment firm that he's got, because Anthropic is the one that has held out against any investment from Donald Trump. So now he's forcing Anthropic to consider an investment from his venture firm, his tech-aligned venture firm, in order to get a piece of Anthropic, and he's using the Pentagon as a means to get that, which is just the mobbiest thing you've ever seen, and so un-American. But it's like, either you give me a piece of your company, and either you give me the 10% protection money that I'm asking for, or we are going to own you through the Pentagon. This is the modern day capitalist world. Donald Trump has given America. I mean, it's the least trustable thing in the world.
And no one explains it like that when we have these conversations about why a guy like Pete Hegseth tells an AI company like Anthropic, do what we want you to do, drop all the regulations and all the guardrails, or else we'll take you over. The excuse that they'll hear, MAGA will hear it, they'll hear it before they even say it as well, that we only trust the government. We don't trust people. And when you actually get down to it, you're right. Donald Trump is forcing Pete Hegseth to be his fucking bagman to go to this organization so that he can own a part of it and his friends can own a part of it, because they've all said no to MAGA donations, MAGA money, MAGA investment. They've all, Anthropic, Claude, they're an incredible organization. Really, really are. Mm-hmm. And now what they're doing is, now we're going to figure out a way that we can weaponize this conversation so that we can get what we want for dear leader. It's very, very fucking North Korean, by the way, too. So we can get what we want for dear leader, and so that we can use what you have created with your own merit. These are the same people that would be fucking up in arms back when Joe Biden was president if there was ever a conversation to nationalize SpaceX. Same people. He built it. He should be allowed to have it. That's the best part about trillionaires. There's the bad guy. And this is how it works the other way. Just so you know how fucking completely hypocritical. You know that there is nothing different between the Nationalist Socialist Party in 1933, 32, 33 in Germany and this party. They are socialists. They are fascists. They are whatever the end of that horseshoe is and the extremities of it and the worst parts of it. And they are literally threatening an organization of really bright, fair-minded people that run the most advanced AI platform in the world, saying either you give Trump 10% and you take off the guardrails, or we're going to shut you down and take what you built. Suck on that today.
Yeah, and here's what Congress needs to act on right now, because you remember when social media first started and we all happily jumped on Facebook and gave Facebook all our information and all our networks. And then a few years later, they turned around and used that information in order to control our elections and to steal the elections. Well, this is no different to that. I mean, I use AI in such a comprehensive way that they are part of my, it's built into my computer. And so Claude knows a lot about me. And I don't want to give that information to the US government, and I expect Anthropic to spare me from that kind of surveillance. But of course, trusting corporations to do that is not workable. And we've seen in the past, they don't do it. They won't do it. We will land up with this Anthropic being bought out by some major party who buys up everything, and then they'll be used against us in the way that Facebook was used against us. And we absolutely need Congress, if there is still any sign of Congress, to protect us in the future, to not allow the state or anybody else to harness the information we give AI, the information we give Claude or ChatGPT in any way against us. That's our information that should be protected as our information. It's not a public utility where you're dumping all your ideas into. I mean, AI is very sophisticated. You can mimic a lot of things. It can, in some ways, it knows you better than you know yourself because it's got such a deep archive. But a lot of my Epstein investigation is sitting in Anthropic. I don't want the Pentagon to know what I'm investigating about Jeffrey Epstein.
But the Pentagon, specifically this Pentagon, being run by this douchebag, wants to know exactly what you're saying and writing and researching.
I know they do. I know they do, and they probably are watching it anyhow. But that shouldn't be. I expect them to be, but that shouldn't be the way the world is. I mean, we should be protecting people's privacy in this oncoming future. I mean, we know that AI is going to take a lot of jobs. It's going to really be difficult in the future economy to find the right kind of work and to employ everybody. If on top of that, we're stealing everyone's ideas, we really are going to be destroying any sense of what capitalism was before. Scrapey is what they're doing.
Well said. Yeah, well said.
Into this is a story that you've been covering a lot on deanbundell.substack.com. There's two war fronts developing in just a couple of days. We've seen on two fronts in Geneva, the United States and Iran wrapped up 6 hours of nuclear talks with no deal. Tehran says the sides identified their main elements of an agreement, but differences remain. In the meantime, you've got the U.S. ambassador to Israel saying people should have 1 day to get out of Israel. So the fireworks.
Canada's like, hey, if you're in Israel and you're Canadian, maybe you should peace out. Hey, Iranian Canadians in Iran, you should probably split. Hey, China is telling their essential and non-essential people in Iran, you got to get the fuck out right now. They're sending like massive flotillas of planes over to pull everybody out. 6 countries have now warned everybody. Listen, there are something like 37 6th-gen fighter jets at Oveda Air Force Base in Israel. There is an entire complement of air power, firepower, growlers, Raptors sitting on 2 aircraft carriers in the Mediterranean. One specifically, the USS Gerald Ford. All the toilets have backed up. They're dealing with dysentery and a serious problem. So who knows?
Fun times.
But it's on. Like, and another little wrinkle was that China sent some anti-ship ballistic missiles to Iran. I don't know if you saw this. I can't remember the name of P-301s or something like that. These are these supersonic, missiles that take out boats that are, doing things in waters to countries like aircraft carriers and the two that are in the Mediterranean. So, you don't tell, like 6 countries don't tell people in specifically 2 countries that have been posturing for war, specifically one country in Israel, where there is so much U.S. firepower that they could literally wipe out Iran in about, a day and a half.
Yeah.
You don't clear the deck in both of those countries as allies or other, right? Without knowing that something's going to fucking pop off real soon.
Yeah, they don't send that kind of firepower into the Middle East unless they expect to use it. It costs millions just to move the stuff around, like billions in some cases.
Listen, Trump's got no problem spending millions moving stuff around to show people that he's a cool guy, he's a tough guy. He might, and that's a leverage point for sure. But I talked to Ken Harbaugh, who's a former Navy vet, and he works a lot with all these different Navy and veteran organizations. He runs an organization called Valor Media Network. And we had him on this week. And I'm like, so what's the deal? Is it going to happen? And he goes, oh, yeah. You do not posture like this. You don't put that kind of firepower in that area of the world. You want to scare people, you might do a couple of sorties and a couple of flyovers and that kind of stuff. It might scare the shit out of you. He goes, it's a full compliment. Something is going to happen. We just don't know the scale of what's going to happen.
And why?
DOJ, well, because as Ken said, Donald Trump is racist.
But it's not really about that. I mean, it's, Donald Trump has done business with the IRGC and made money off the IRGC repeatedly. He's got no problem, being a friend
Obama had a pretty big deal with Iran, where kind of put a kettle on a few things when it came to enriching uranium, And it was a celebrated deal, to be honest with you. And Donald Trump has misrepresented that deal, and he wants to have his own deal. He wants to, kind of like the Kennedy Center, he wants to put his name on foreign policy now. And this is one of those things. And the other thing is Iran has a lot of oil, right?
I think it is a lot about oil. But there's something more, because this is not, has Iran done something to the world that really necessitates an all-out attack by America on Iran? Have they done, yes, they've funded some terror organizations, but those terror organizations have been paying the price in Gaza, although it hasn't worked, but they've tried. In the idea that this should be a target of war based on this idea that they might in the future build a nuclear weapon is very limiting to me. I mean, there must be much more to it than that. it must
They've been
be
days away. They've been days away from launching.
Yeah, I mean, but still, lots of countries have nuclear weapons. We don't go blowing them out of existence. We don't go doing regime change. But in this case, we're going to do it, and there's no reason to be killing thousands or hundreds of thousands of people, and we just have no idea of how this powder keg is going to react. I mean, the Middle East is not a stable place. We just saw today the other place where there's a big war is that Pakistan has basically declared open war on the Taliban. They've in overnight in Kandahar they shot the head of I think it's I don't know the exact city. It's just a senior Taliban commander was killed. I don't know who it was specifically. So you've got another war erupting there. That's not far away from that. That's not the Middle East per se, but it does tell you how one little war in one place can ignite so many others in other places, and it's really challenging because we have no real reason to be in there. Like we don't need another Middle East war. Donald Trump campaigned against these forever wars. Here we are going in and doing another forever war.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and they said this one's going to be sustained. This will be, if it does happen, it'll be weeks and weeks and weeks long, depending on the appetite that the Trump regime has to sell this back to the American people as making the world safe again. To your point, it will not. Listen, taking out Iran, like I've got no love for Iran. It's a Islamic dictatorial, hard, murderous regime.
Yeah, me neither. I'm in support of the regime.
And that's how he's going to sell this to Americans. He's going to say,
but it's not a good reason to go to war. We don't like a lot of people around the world, we don't. But it doesn't mean we go to war with them.
Well, is he willing to do this in other countries that are asking for regime change? No, fuck not.
Why isn't he going after Vladimir Putin? That's our real adversary, but he doesn't do that.
Because Vlad has the nudes.
Yeah, he's got the tape. Listen, the other thing is, and I hate to I don't want to be conspiratorial about this, but one of the big banking families that are involved in the Gulf and in Iran is the same Rothschild family that we were discussing earlier. Now, I don't want to reach into this being that kind of conspiracy, but Edmund de Rothschild has been aggressively expanding into the Gulf, and they have a Dubai office. In 2024, they announced a joint venture with S&B Capital in Saudi Arabia. The Rothschild Bank manages Gulf Arab wealth. Epstein brokered Rothschild Israeli intelligence deals throughout his time there. There is a lot of Saudi, Dubai, Israeli, Rothschild money floating around that part of the world. And to me, that just raises yet another red flag. If you consider that, Trump's ties to the Rothschilds as well. Previously, they got him out of bankruptcy. There's it could be coincidence that this name keeps showing up, but it's a lot of it coming up over and over and over again.
Yeah, it's coincidence.
It's just coincidence, right?
It's just coincidence.
Just coincidence that
every
investment.
Single place that we've just discussed and every single terrible thing going on around Donald Trump and the Epstein files and these wars and these families involved just happen to know each other.
They just all because it's a small world, and the rich and powerful, they just all know each other. So there's no connection with the fact that we might be going to war with Iran, with the fact that the Saudis hate Iran, and that they're trying to dislodge the government there. There's nothing there. Absolutely nothing.
Don't pay attention to the things that make sense. Pay attention to them telling you what doesn't make sense.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's how they would like this.
What a world we live in. At number 2, the media landscape just shifted permanently. Netflix dropped its $83 billion bid for Warner Brothers Discovery after the WBD board deemed Paramount Skydance's $111 billion offer superior. Really, it was more about Donald Trump telling Netflix to stop negotiating. So Larry Ellison's Paramount Skydance, already merging with Paramount, will now absorb CNN, TNT, TBS, the Cartoon Network, Discovery, Food, and everything else in the Warner empire. Less voices on the air that are giving you a variety of opinion, but also, who knows, you may even get a MAGA food show or a MAGA Discovery show.
RFK Jr. cooking with RFK Jr.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
First, you just drink the milk from the cow. That's what you do. You get underneath the cow and then you start yanking on the udder.
Lutnick and RFK would make a great cooking show or Discovery show.
Yeah, it really would. Yeah, cooking with RFK and Howie. This is the most dangerous news of the day, folks. If you're paying attention, yes, we are talking about wars. Yes, we are talking about The Epstein files, yes. We are talking about Bill Clinton's deposition, which is I mean, these are big stories, but this is not the biggest story of the day. This is the biggest story of the day. Is that the guys that just pulled off an absolute fucking heist over at CBS, turning that into Trump regime state media. And when I say Trump regime state media, the effort that CBS went to paint the State of the Union speech, the address, like it was some kind of Pulitzer Prize winning award, fucking uniting speech, which it was just garbage, was so sickening to me. Well, you can expect that if this merger goes through, because it was bought by Larry Ellison. He put Barry Weiss in charge. The rest is history. Now, David and Larry Ellison are also purchasing everything else. Like, this isn't, there are no media outlets other than NBC that are.
Well, even NBC is they took MS Now and they've split it off into its own companies so it's a small entity. It's going to get acquired in no time for these guys. They'll own everything before it's too late. They'll probably acquire Substack. They'll probably acquire everything out there because they're also the streaming provider for all of America. So Oracle is the number one provider of streaming technology and streaming around the world. So by consolidating all these creators in one place, by being the distributor and the content creator, they can make the bottom line look so much better at every one of these networks. The problem is it comes with a huge compromising factor that if they control who the hosts are and who the voices are in all of these networks,
and the
you're
content,
going to end up with
and the narrative. Right.
Yeah, and TikTok, then they control everything. Then, we can sit here and tell you about the Rothschilds until we're blue in the face, but you won't see that on CNN. You won't see that on CBS.
Dude, that's why the Ellison Group and Skydance are now buying CNN. This is a mega news monopoly across the United States of America now, like a mega news monopoly. And what they don't own, they have absolute their sights set on owning. Whether it is, there are no social media platforms left that are untouched by the Trump regime and MAGA.
Yeah.
There are no mainstream media outlets that are untouched by the Trump regime and MAGA. There are no news outlets, major television news outlets, news brands that are now left untouched by MAGA. You're left with effectively Axios and us.
Yeah. And AI is about to be taken by, the Trump regime. So you've got no real technology that's allowing you to develop news or broadcast news or whatever going to be available to us. It really is a terrible state of affairs. And we've spoken about how dangerous this is for democracies, but I don't think people really understand how much happens when the truth dies. When you are in a country like China, where there is no coverage of the corruption and there's no coverage of anything bad that's going on, and everything stays hidden under the carpet, and anyone who squeals gets killed or disappeared, then you can't believe how rampant the corruption really is. And it takes on a life of its own. It takes over every part of the public life. And if that's going to happen to America, America is going to lose so much of its wealth and so much of its respectability around the world that it's hard to see how it survives in any form. That, every cent that's available for people to steal will be stolen, and you will never, ever find out about it because journalists are not going to be allowed to cover the news. They're not going to be allowed to investigate stories. They're not going to be allowed to do what we do here, which is, just unpack the news with some smart analysis and some understanding of the context of everything. You're not going to get any of that. You're going to get
these streams will cease to exist.
Yeah.
We will be prevented from talking to you. We will be prevented from having a conversation with you. We will be flagged with community notes. Anybody that tells the truth, that is dissenting to the truth or the alternative reasoning or narratives that the Trump regime and the massive global reorganization of media, specifically here in the United States of America and in North America, right? Because it's a borderless ecosystem. You're just going to be a Russian at that point. You're just going to be a Chinese person. You're just going to be a North Korean at that point. You're going to be spoon-fed your narrative. You're going to be spoon-fed your fucking narrative. And people that want to give you the truth, give you facts, will not only just be shut out, they'll be minimized and attacked, or in some cases taken off the air completely, or
imprisoned,
deplatformed,
or killed. And if you look at some others in other
John
countries,
Levin, come to mind.
Yeah, Navalny. Navalny killed for being a journalist. Really,
yeah.
This is a really dangerous state of affairs that we're in, and it's heightened by this other news, which is our number one story of the day, which is that Donald Trump is attempting to also steal the elections. His allies have drafted a order to seize the elections. A group of right-wing activists working in coordination with the White House is circulating a draft emergency executive order that would give Donald Trump unilateral power to ban mail-in ballots and voting machines before the 2026 midterm elections. And the basis is ridiculous. It's a debunked conspiracy theory that China interfered with the 2020 elections to elect Biden. It's blatantly illegal what he's trying to do. Obviously, that's the case. Obviously, it's a lie. It doesn't mean it won't happen. It's likely that it won't happen, but it could still happen. And we see what this administration is trying to do in terms of stealing elections. We've certainly seen them do it before. The risk here as well with the dying news media is that no one's going to be there to question the results, no matter what it is. So it doesn't really matter what if we don't have any independent media to ask the questions, how will we ever know?
That's a great question. And a great point to sort of wrap up the Fivestack, specifically the last two stories, right? And, the 17-page memo that went around that included China, we kind of laughed about it yesterday. He's got like a wheel of foreign interference in his office. He spins the wheel and he's like, okay, China. But I need everybody to pay very close attention to Nicolas Maduro in this mix, okay? A report came out today that said an internal memo talked about how, and I've yet to post it, I'll post it a little later on tonight, about how Maduro is going to be key to the executive order that will come out that'll effectively be there are no more free and fair elections, because Donald Trump is going to wrap this up with an offer to Nicolas Maduro that he will not be able to refuse. Supermax prison for the rest of your life, or you play along with our whole thing that says you, along with other countries, deeply meddled in the elections in 2020, and you planned on doing it again in 2026 and in 2028. And that is why, and he's going to get buy-in from Maduro. That's his goal, according to White House insiders. It's to put Maduro up in the middle of this whole thing and say, it was us. It was China. We were working with the Bidens.
Who's going to believe Maduro? I mean, it's ridiculous, though. Who's going to believe this guy?
Dude, it is. There's like a memo that's being circulated right now, and I should have brought it with me today, but I didn't. And I need everybody to pay attention to that one name, not just pay attention to the wheel of foreign interference that they spin all the time so they can take over elections and tell you, listen, it's only us. This was the deep state. It was the Democrats. Now you got to put all your faith in us. We need martial law. We need to cancel the elections. We need to have this SAVE Act, which died in the Senate yesterday, thank God, which is hilarious, even though they're going to try and executive order the shit out of this thing, which is what we're talking about here, which is making it very difficult for people that don't have passports to vote, making it virtually impossible for people who can't find their fucking birth certificates to vote. They're not going to take driver's licenses. They're going to ban mail-in voting, and they're going to ban electronic voting. Crazy. And that in itself precludes something like 30% of Americans from voting, because guys like us, we have passports, right? We got driver's licenses. We've got there is a select group of people in the United States who don't have the money to get those things, don't have the infrastructure to get those things, don't have the desire to get those things, that have never left their state, that have been voting with a driver's license for I don't know how long. Well, yeah, you're looking at like 130 million people that aren't going to get a chance to fucking vote. And they know who that benefits, right? They know who that benefits. So
it's such a good
on
point.
A fucking swivel, everybody.
When you think about where we've been through on today's show, we started off with the former Democratic president being grilled by the Republican Party about his involvement with Epstein, while the current president, who's definitely involved with Epstein, has had his files disappeared out of the Epstein files in the FBI. So you've got blatant cover-up happening right now involving child trafficking, involving child murder, you name it, and it's all being pinned on Democrats like Bill Clinton. Then you've got these AI wars where they're trying to take over Anthropic, trying to access all of our data and to have mass surveillance using AI. And potential war happening in Iran, and already war happening in Afghanistan.
The takeover of CNN. Media.
Yeah, total takeover of everything in media. And then finally a takeover of the elections. I mean, it's a roadmap to authoritarianism. You no longer need to know that's where we're going. We are here. It is happening in real time. And this president doesn't care what you think anymore. He intends to just ride over your opinion and your votes and just take over the country, because that's what he thinks he's been mandated to do not by you, because he doesn't care about you anymore. He's been told to do that by his allies and his supporters in Moscow and Saudi Arabia, who knows, maybe even the Rothschilds. And they're going to do everything that they can to take over every sense of what a democratic republic has been about. It's appalling. It's happening. And there is not a single good news story in today's show, because there is no good news around any of this. It really is shitty all around. I mean, that's just the way it is.
The good news is that we get a chance to actually explain this to people, and then they get a chance to decide if they want to be part of the solution or if they're going to capitulate. And that's why we're here, right? That's why we're here. And I would encourage everybody, and I mean everybody that is watching this, no matter where you are, if you're on X, you're on Twitter, you're on Substack, we're on Substack, is please hit that Chiron and subscribe. Subscribe, share, share, share. And in doing that, you get this to the top of the algorithm. Like this, hammer those hearts, hit that little box in the corner, little Chiron at the top on the left-hand side, the gray one that you see our name is tickering. Hit that little button with your thumb and then subscribe. And then share this with as many people as you can. It's so fucking important, right, to support real truth tellers and people that are trying to cut through the kife to explain to you what's going on. And to your point, it wasn't a great news day for Americans, but it's a great news day for all of us that are interested in joining the resistance and taking this seriously. These are signposts along the way to a dictatorial regime that is slowly and surely, but so quickly, wringing the necks of every single person who wants to experience the American dream. And it is happening. It's not, if this happens, it's fucking happening, dude. It's happening right now. And please subscribe, please share. If you can become a paid subscriber, that would be incredible, because it gets this to the top of the algorithm as well. And it pushes us to the front of the queue when it comes to information and people like us that tell the truth. So paid subscribers, we're grateful for it. It takes a lot of work to get this information to you. We appreciate it. If you appreciate it, become a paid subscriber. If you simply can't afford it or don't want to do it, that's fine too. You can do something by sharing this with as many people as humanly possible. You can do something by just subscribing for free or following us on these platforms and all the platforms that we're on, and find other truth tellers that are willing to tell the truth in the face of this kind of bullshit, fearlessly. That's really, really important, because in the end, that's the only course of action we have. We don't have $140 billion to top the offer of Larry Ellison so we can buy CNN. We don't. We don't have the opportunity to be able to end policy and presidential memorandums and executive orders that call for the execution of Americans and the detainment and the beatings of migrants and people of color. We don't. We just have the ability to continually call it out and tell you how you can get involved by calling your congressman, calling your senator, telling these people that you want free and fair elections. And they will not stop. Like we see it all the time. If something dies in the House or something dies in the Senate, then there's an executive order that comes. They will not stop. And it's up to us to stop them. And we do that at the fucking polls. And to end the Fivestack, I would say this. Obama says it all the time. Don't boo, vote. Don't complain, vote. Don't shut off your fucking screen. Watch, then vote. Don't dismiss, go vote. Don't not read, then go vote. It is going to be so vitally important that we go full Obama in 2026. That is such
so well said, and thank you so much for saying that. We can't afford to buy CNN, but no one really watches CNN anymore. What we get is your support, and certainly your paid support as we continue to build this out. Our intention is to keep going. We're not stopping because Donald Trump is turning America into a dictatorship. We're going to continue to grow these platforms. We want to continue to grow our audience, and we're going to continue to reach people with the truth wherever they are. And we do need your support for that, whether it's as paid subscribers or as just non-paid subscribers. Wherever you're watching this, we're on Instagram today for the first time, on YouTube and a bunch of places live. We haven't done that before. X for the first time live. We're doing this because we really want to reach a bigger audience than just the Substack audience. It's important that the truth gets out to everybody. If you want to join us on our main platform, though, that is Substack. So join deanblundell.substack.com, deanblundell.substack.com. Great news summaries all day long. Great breaking news coverage. You won't get any better breaking news coverage than
There's a
Dean
great video
provides.
there too of Lauren Boebert literally having a seizure trying to explain inflation to Piers Morgan. You would love it. DeanBlundell.substack.com. Check it out today. 30% off annual subscriptions. That ends March 1st, so you got another day. And do the same thing for my friend Zev Shalev over at Narrative. His daily newsletter is incredible. His daily heist series is undeniable, and he is always first to post. And you've got a great new piece up there. Why don't you tell us about it if you can?
There's a lot about the Rothschilds lately.
Yeah.
I've been really digging into them, which is why I've been bringing them up at tonight's show, how they tie into the Epstein world, how he appears to be an operative for the Rothschilds, and how that is not just a brief dalliance. It has gone on since 1987. And guess who else is connected to the Rothschilds? Donald Trump. The reason he had never got bankrupt when his casinos failed is all because the Rothschilds bailed him out. Coincidence? Probably not just coincidence. Probably not.
Thanks,
and that is the Fivestack today. We'll see you again Monday at 3 p.m. Have a great weekend, Dean.
Bye, guys. You too. Have a great weekend, everybody. Hang in there for each other. We're going to do this. It's just going to be a little bumpy, but we're here.
We're going to make it. Bye-bye.